Hi everybody. The first part of the lesson you've already watched. She showed you how to factor a polynomial that has 4 terms by grouping. And so that's what you see here. This is what she just did. All right, and here are the problems that she went through. She grouped the first 2 terms, grouped the second 2 terms, and then took out the common factors. Okay, those all had plus signs in them. So I want you to take a look now at problems, 2 problems that are not all addition. And so let's take a look at number 3. Number 3, let's just go ahead and group. So there's the first 2 terms. And then if we take a look at the second 2 terms, we've got minus 8w minus 40. So there's subtraction in there. And that's going to change things just a little bit. So taking a look at the first part, we can factor out w squared that they have in common. So w squared. And then what we have left inside the parentheses would be a w plus 5. Okay, now we go to the second part of the grouping, and we've got a minus 8 minus 40. Minus 8w minus 40. And so we're going to factor out a negative 8. So minus 8 here, that's our negative 8. And now we're going to divide that negative 8 out of the first term, and we end up with a positive w. And then we're going to divide it out of the second term. Negative 40 divided by negative 8 equals a positive 5. So when you have that subtraction right here in the middle, notice what it does. The first term now is not negative, it's positive, and the second term is positive. It changed the sign of each of those. Okay, so to finish that out, we have that magical w plus 5. That's our first factor, times w squared minus 8 is the second factor. And we have factored a polynomial with 4 terms. Okay, let's try that one more time. Let's take a look at number 5, right below it. And let's group. So here's our first grouping, and here's our second grouping. Okay, so in the first grouping, looks like I can take out p to the third that they have in common. That leaves us with p squared. Remember, when we multiply these back together, you would add those exponents and you would get a 5. Minus 6. And then, when we go to the second grouping, we're going to divide out a 2, but we're going to divide out a negative 2 because there's that minus there. So we're dividing out a negative 2. And so I'm going to take negative 2p squared and divide by negative 2, and I get a positive p squared. And then I'm going to take the positive 12 and divide by negative 2, and I get a positive 6. And again, you can see this was negative, it's now positive. This was positive, it's now negative. Sorry about that, should be a minus sign there. Okay, and so now we have our 2 factors. We've got our p squared minus 6 that you find inside the parentheses times p to the third minus 2. And again, if you want to multiply that back out and check, you could do that. So p squared times p to the third will give you the p to the 5th. And the p squared times the minus 2 will give you this minus 2p squared. And then if we multiply here, negative 6 times p to the third, there's that factor. And finally, negative 6 times negative 2 is the positive 12. So that works out correctly. So watch out for the negative in the middle.